Hey Aquarius. All right. Welcome to Opal Oracle if you're new. And if you're returning, I'm so happy to have you back. All right, let's see. Never heard that bird before. Let's see what you get for cards. Give me just a second. Well, you want to stop having the same conversation. With someone with yourself. You at least want something also to kind of the basic action of something, you want it to like slow down a little, you know. Like if you're a, you know, if you had gears and things of this nature, like how do you slow down the machine of yourself, you know, and then start it back up? You need to be brave right now too, okay? Like, because the less action you start putting towards certain things in your life, I also see specifically this can also be like internet usage, computer usage, cell phone usage. If that's on whatever, like it's important to pay attention to how much time you spend doing that. I cannot emphasize enough. Interesting. Like, what do you do when there's no electricity? What do you do when there's no... You rule electricity. What do you do when there's no electricity? When there's that lack of energy, what do you do? Now, you also have Saturn transiting your 12th house, okay? It's a pretty... Saturn rules you as well, so it's definitely extremely beneficial for you if you work with those energies. But Dahchi, Dadhachi, he's an astrologer and he talks about it also. I like him. He's quick and to the point, very efficient, funny. But anyway, that's important to remember, okay? It's because it's ultimate, like, closing of cycles. It can have a lot to do with past lifetimes, things that are like not even just buried, like they're unknown, you know. Some of the unconscious ways that we function are in that house, okay? And the cool thing is that because Virgo, their opposite, rules health, that means that Pisces, your 12th house, is the way to fix it. But Saturn wants you to fix something very distinctly, and it's a lot about acceptance, but where you're not just accepting it and getting upset with yourself about whatever the situations are or were, but just understanding what it was and knowing that that's just part of the path, right? We're just all walking along the path. you know? And everyone walks differently. Everyone would choose a different path, you know? If there were multiple paths to choose from. Now, I picked 2 extra. You and Taurus received 2. Everyone else received 1. But I chose from the Mary L. Tarot just some cards that have to do with this Venus transit also, which is until completely transiting will be January 9th. But you received the 3 of Swords in reverse as well as the Hanged Man in reverse. This is very positive. Of course, because you have the Hanged Man here. This relates to what you need. I heard you're already done figuring something out. Or at very least, you have an opportunity right now, if you've been putting in the work, to put down something that you've been carrying around. And not let it affect your day-to-day anymore. Not let it affect your mind in a negative way anymore. You can just ascend over the places that make you do this. Worry, you know, not sleep well. Have those parts of you that you don't even really share because you feel like you're not supposed to, because you're the highest decan of the air and you're supposed to represent, you know, this almighty, infinite, essential being, I guess, the stars, right? That guide us. How is the sage or the guru, not to call, you know what I mean, but like, you know, I think most sages and gurus and things like that, all the people, you know, if we were speaking in an ancient sense, lived alone because they had bad days too. But if people saw that, they would, you know, because we have these levels of like what things are supposed to be according to what we've been told. And then I heard the internet. That's very interesting. You know, because it's all about the way we perceive the messages that we are a part of, that we are absorbing, right? When we hear them, see them, etc. Like even these readings, you know, this is why, you know, thousands of people can resonate in a similar sense, even though it's one thing going outward, because that one thing is multiple, right? It's infinite, if you please, and it's really important, I guess, for you to understand that you have a choice in how it is that you function through understanding what your psychological cycles are to how you really function. You're an air sign. You know what? Virgo got this too, 9 of Swords. It was in the Mary L. Tarot, but I like the way that I saw it then. It was exactly 9 minutes also. The 9 of Swords, yes, this is 9. But this is only one kind of 9 swords. You could have 9 swords and do something really spectacular with it if you want. That's a lot of mental capacity, right? This is a 9 of Swords in the shadow realm. What's the 9 of Swords in the light realm? What does that look like? You know what I mean? And I think by the end of this period, or whenever you work through these cards, what happens is you figure out that that's the case. You know, you figure out that 9, okay, well, what if you turn a 9 upside down? Well, what do you get? A 6. The 6 of Swords gets you out of that, right? But you can only do that by looking at the 3 of Swords. Right? What's blocking you from flying free? What's keeping you stuck? Right? But the cool thing is this Venus retrograde, at least during this period specifically, and I've mentioned it a couple times, but November 8th is an important astrological day for everyone. It's really deep and heavy and interesting. I'm fascinated to see well, I guess it depends. Like I've said this before, but what if people didn't know that Venus was going in retrograde or whatever? You know, it depends. I guess the question is also how did I hear it? How much of what we know, what we say, how much of that is ours? And how much of it is something we're repeating that we heard somewhere, somehow? And if we took out the parts of what is only repeating, regurgitating something that we've been told or shown, what's left? Right? What's left? Well, there's 2 9s. Sumi. 1 second. Hey, stay right there. Oh, shit. Hold on a second. Stay. Gotta check on the pups. Good girl. Thank you for coming when I called you. She's so sweet. Yeah, 9. What's 9? The higher mind, right? Sagittarius' house. How would we learn if people didn't tell us how to learn? Interesting. Just a minute. Keeping your hands busy will help you be more productive, okay? Just doing something. It's something about quiet working, too. It's not talking and working, it's just working. It's so nice when you don't hear any human things for a little while. You know? If this is bothering you, right, I want to let you know that your feelings are valid, okay? And you need to rest if you feel like that. It's important to care for yourself. You don't want to if you don't rest, then you will be less productive in being able to understand and find that truth, right? Find that Ace of Swords that was there on the bottom. Part of if that 9 of Swords is happening also, or I don't sense this as constant. I sense it as, you know, Maybe just a little part of your day gets a blip of it, or, you know, maybe once a week there's something that kind of happens. That could be something astrological. It can also just be, as I mentioned before, the Saturn in your 12th house. It's a really strong transit, you know, because after that, then you have it in your first house, you know, which causes a true definition of who it is that you are. But you have to close out who it is that you were to be able to receive this new I am. And not just say it, right? Not just, but know it. Innately know it. Stay, please. You also have to know about the ways, the unconscious workings of yourself, and understand that that part of you is innately connected to your heart and how that's felt, and throughout many lifetimes. Okay? Like what your heart has had to go through. And I heard it. I know you don't want to go back to the dark side. Right. You're willing to face up to the challenge, whatever it is. I sense it is very much a spiritual challenge in relation to day-to-day things. Trying to figure out what this little page wants to say. You know how kids usually aren't indecisive, right? Most kids aren't indecisive. You ask them something, you either say yes or no. It's pretty clear, right? Like, it's just yes or no. You want this to drink? No. I mean, granted, like, maybe this is... I don't need to get into that. But the point is that I feel like most kids are pretty open. But adults are more, start to lean, you know, as we age, we like lean towards, well, I don't know if I should do that, or there's so many options now, right? When you go to the grocery store, you go into the, I don't know, the condiment aisle. There's a whole aisle of condiments now. And it's like, which mustard do you want? There's 50, 60 options. There's a whole cereal aisle, right? All the same things in different little boxes. And those options are nice, sure. But I think it also can take us away from where that childlike ultimate trusting of where you're going is where you're supposed to be, right? Not having too much concern about the outcome, because just knowing that it'll happen because it does. I guess that's what your inner child wanted you to know. Something about that. Alright, to close this out, we're going to read from the Warrior of Light. Aquarius. It says, the Warrior of Light hears comments like, there are certain things I'd rather not talk about because people are so envious. When he hears this, the warrior laughs. Envy cannot harm you if you don't let it. Envy is a part of life, and everyone should learn to deal with it. However, he rarely discusses his plans. And sometimes people believe this is because he is afraid of envy. But he knows that whenever he talks about a dream, he uses a little bit of energy from that dream in order to do so. And by talking, he runs the risks of spending all the energy he needs to put the dream into action. A warrior of light knows the power of words. And this is actually what you wanted, was this. It's very interesting. And you know what? I just recorded Taurus's reading, and I feel like they have a message for you in relation to that. Okay? Like, you know, is there anything that you stop yourself from doing because you feel like it's already been done? Or, you know, deep down, maybe you feel like you don't deserve it, right? Because you know that you'd be the best at it. And that in itself is scary, because then you have to live up to it constantly, right? A little tidbit of information too, when we're talking about ideas or things you're trying to achieve in this life, when you do talk about them, right? And he knows whenever he talks about a dream, he uses a little bit of the energy from that dream in order to do so. And by talking, he runs the risk of spending all the energy he needs to put that dream into action. You know, say you want to write a book. This is a proven fact, if you will. Say you want to write a book and you start telling everybody about this book that you're going to write. It's going to be about this. These are all the characters, da-da-da-da. And then these other people are like, oh, that's a wonderful idea. You know, great idea. Write that book, sure. But what happens is your brain actually sends off chemical responses to that because you're receiving some sort of recognition about it, that you've already achieved something and you haven't. You just wasted that energy attached to that dream. So there's something about keeping that, like keeping your cards close to your chest a little bit. And it's about doing, not saying, right? Actions speak louder than words any day. Like I say all the time, you know, what if you were deaf? What if you were blind? For some of you, I heard you used to be deaf or blind in other lives. That's like one of the things that you still hold on to. Like you feel like you still can't see, or you feel like you still can't hear something. You don't have the ability that you actually, all the abilities that you actually have this time. And even though that physicality isn't necessarily there, it still affects you psychologically to who it is that you think that you are. Fascinating. Just 23, we'll take that. All right, that's the end of the story. Take care, Aquarius.